Okay, so today let's understand the how internally Snowflake works. Okay, so what are the key concepts involved in the entire architecture of the Snowflake? Okay, different platforms, cloud platforms involved in the Snowflake account creation, as well as the cloud regions and editions. Okay, and when the Snowflake will release the different versions into the market on weekly basis or a monthly basis, everything today we'll understand. Okay, and anyway, we already created the Snowflake account. So is anyone facing issue to create a Snowflake account? Please confirm. I hope everyone already created the Snowflake account.
Yes. Oh, good.
Okay. Yeah, so today we'll understand the key concepts, right? So as I mentioned in the first few couple of sessions also mentioned, right? So Snowflake is a completely cloud-based SaaS application. That means a software as a service application. Okay, so internally, which enables us to mainly for the storage is one part of, and another one is a processing. Okay, so when we compared with any traditional approach, right? So the Snowflake is stands out because of so where the data storage is one way as well as the processing is the another way. Okay, and as I mentioned, right, so it's not completely okay where we can completely we're not going to use Hadoop or Spark or any existing RDBMS. No, it was not like that. It's completely a cloud-based analytic database, so which is where we can we don't need to mention we don't need to spend money on the hardware kind of things or any unnecessary things. It's completely okay, it's completely there is no hardware involved, so we are supposed to be only just to create the account, and after that we can the required things we can install on the local machine, and we can configure and we can manage everything. So so that's the reason. So here we, if you're able to see data platform as a service, right? So the Snowflake is completely true self-managed service. So that means no hardware, no virtual physical software to select, install, configure, and manage everything. That means so we don't need to spend some time on the installation part for the Snowflake. Everything will be once you created the account, so the system will automatically take care of the everything. Our part is to just to load the data and create the queries and execute them, and you can perform lot of transformations on top of the data. That's how Snowflake will works. Means very simple. We're not going to spend any hardware related things, or we don't need to spend any software installations and everything. Okay, and we don't need to spend some I think most of the people already know, right? So ongoing with the patching activities, so we used to see, right? So in real-time environments, right? So some patching activities will be going on, so sometimes we are supposed to be involved in those kind of activities as well. But when it comes to the Snowflake, so where they will take care of everything, so maintenance, management, upgrades or tuning, everything will be taken care by the Snowflake only. Okay, and as I mentioned, so this Snowflake runs completely on the cloud infrastructure only. So, and we can use the different ways to connect to the Snowflake. So that is by using the JDBC, ODBC connector, or Snowpark, or by using the Snow CLI. Okay, that means the Snowflake CLI only. So that's a different ways to connect it to the Snowflake. Very simple. Okay, let's understand the Snowflake architecture as well. I hope you're able to see this complete image, right? So total will be having the uh, three different layers of the complete architecture. So the Snowflake, right? So which is a traditional shared disk as well as the shared nothing database architecture. So that means internally the data will be persisted and we can able to access it from the all the compute nodes within the single platform. Okay, so we don't need to worry about that concept. Okay, internally, right? So whatever the data you are storing, it will be stored across the machines, and whenever we require it, so the Snowflake, right, internally it will process like a MPP. MPP means a massive parallel processing. Massive parallel processing. So compute the clusters. So whereas each node in the cluster stores the portion of the entire data. Okay, and here, so we'll be having the database storage for storing the data, and we'll be having the query processing is nothing but, so for example, once we log into the Snowflake account, right, so we'll be able to see the worksheet. That means from there we're able to execute the queries, and there if you able, okay, let me show you that one as well, you get more understanding. Login file, see, if you are able to see, these all are my warehouses. Okay, so if it comes to this account, and after that I could able to see all the list of my when it comes to the admin sub tab, right, I could able to see the warehouses. So this warehouses is nothing but where I can define the size of each cluster as well. So the compute WH is the smaller one. So similar to that, where we can able to create the different size of the cluster as well. So we'll discuss more when we comes to the warehouse concept. So what I'm trying to say here, so we'll be having the only query processing, which is a one of the layer in the Snowflake. So if you see here, the query processing that will be completely handled by the this virtual warehouses only. Virtual warehouse is kind of a RAM, and here the storage part is nothing but, so whenever the data was loaded into the Snowflake internally it will reorganize the data, and where it will store the data into the columnar format completely into the cloud itself only. So that's what about the cloud storage. That means the data base storage. Okay, and this data, right, once we log into the Snowflake account, not Snowflake account, any cloud account, directly we cannot go ahead and access the data. If you want to access the data, yes, must and should we have to write the queries. So from the worksheets, so from here we are supposed to be write the queries. That means so only accessible through SQL query operations only. Accessible through only SQL query operations. That's what about the database storage. Any doubts here when it comes to the only database storage? If you want, I can explain one more time about the database storage. Team, Sandeep, Shabari, Natraj, Stravani.
No, Surya, it's clear.
Okay, okay. Yeah, now let's understand the how the query processing will be happening in the Snowflake. So as I mentioned, this query processing is a it will be MPP. MPP means massive parallel processing. Okay, that means whenever we executed the query inside the Snowflake environment, so that internally comes to the this query processing only. So which is internally uses the virtual warehouse. So you may get the doubt. What do you mean by virtual warehouse? So that means this warehouse will be created from our hands itself only. We do, okay, but these things will be completely virtual. Okay, everything will be created. Let me create one so you'll get more clear understanding. So this is a virtual warehouses, right? So comes to the warehouse. So here you can select, for example, I'm loading the data, loading ETL. I can define the warehouse name, and here if you see we'll be having the size of the that cluster, see, X, very basic one, small, medium, large, extra large, double XL, triple XL, 4XL, 5XL, 6XL. Okay, but most of the time so far we have processed the data in real time, right? So up to 3x is sufficient for us. We never used 4x, 5x, and 6x. If having the more amount of data, then we will go for the large size, okay, until unless or 3x or 2x is also sufficient. Okay, but for testing purpose in your local machines, just go with the basic ones, extra small, small, or medium ones. Okay, if you select the medium, okay, then you can add the comments as well. So the reason behind the creation of this warehouse, you can add the comments as well. Okay, here you can enable the these two properties as well, query acceleration and multi-cluster warehouse options as well. Okay, and we'll talk about this one when once we comes to the new warehouses concept. Just so far create the warehouse. See, so we have created the loading underscore ATL is the my warehouse name, which is size is 4 credits per hour. Okay, that's how we can able to use the we can able to create the warehouses. Whenever you want to use this particular loading underscore ETL, right? Simply what we supposed to be do. Okay, you can comes to the worksheets. Okay, so if you want to use that warehouses, right? Simply we have to use warehouse, and then we're supposed to be mention the warehouse name loading ETL. That's all. See, statement executed successfully. That means, so this entire sheet, this entire worksheet, right? What are the queries are going to execute? These all queries will be executed part of this particular warehouse only. We have so many warehouses, but still, even though, so what are the warehouses you have mentioned as a part of processing this entire worksheet? This will uses this particular warehouses. That means where we are segregating the warehouses as well, where we are segregating the process as well. This option was not available in the any one of the RDBMS, any one of the Spark or Hadoop as well. Because in Hadoop and Spark is internally, right? So where we supposed to be mention the queue name only. Okay, that means all the jobs has to be goes to the one single cluster. It has to be in queue status. Okay, until unless the predecessor job got succeeded, then only the next job will get the resources, then it will be executed. But when it comes to the Snowflake, right? So we don't need to wait for the until the next job has to be complete. We can define the based on your size, based on your job details, based on your data, what you're processing, size of that, you can able to define it, and you can use the that particular warehouses for the different purposes. Okay, and where we can able to configure the so many things. Okay, for example, if you started it and you still if you're not using it also sometimes, so where we get the bill as well. So we have some few more ways to handle this billing activities as well, but this is not the correct time to discuss all of those. So what I'm trying to say here, so if you want to handle the processing layer, these things will be taken care by the only warehouses. Okay, so each warehouse is right, which is a completely independent compute cluster. So there is no dependent on the one warehouse to another warehouse, and this warehouse is dependent on someone else. No, it's completely independent, and it's not going to share any compute resources with the any other existing warehouses. That means, so what's going to happen end of the your job, right? As a result, okay, it's have its own memory and configuration. That means it will be no impact on the performance of the entire job, where it gives the maximum throughput for the each query execution. Any doubts for the query processing? So I'm explaining one more time. So on a high level, these virtual warehouses are completely independent compute cluster. So it's not going to dependent on the any one of the other existing virtual warehouses. Okay, as a part of that particular right. So as it's having the own compute power, so it's not going to any effect on the where it will improve the performance of the your query. Any doubts, uh, Sandeep, Shabari?
What is that cluster, Surya? Surya cluster is like the whole blue bar is cluster.
What Natraj? Cluster
What is that
means?
cluster? Yeah, what is that cluster?
So here the cluster means a group of machines, right? So you're talking about this particular query processing cluster or
Yes, a query processing cluster, correct.
yeah. So when we take the cluster, right? For example, this is my one of the cluster. Okay. If I take this particular entire Snowflake account, this is my one of the cluster. Cluster means it's a collection of the multiple worker nodes internally. So node means one single machine. If we combine all the nodes means, so that's a combination of the one single cluster. But internally, right, as I mentioned, Natras, so we don't need to worry about the this configuration, this cluster configuration, multiple nodes where we're supposed to be configured, and how the data will be stored into the AWS S3, how the data will be stored into the Microsoft ADLS or GCP buckets. We don't need to worry that completely the cluster configuration, everything will be taken care by the Snowflake admin team only. So as we are the developers, as we are the data engineers, so we are supposed to be handle only the data loading activities, data unloading activities, and data processing. And while processing the data, so what are the different ways to we can optimize? And that was, I hope, making sense in terms of the
Yeah.
cluster.
So, Surya, I typed my question earlier. Going back, right? I know theoretically you said multiple node is a one cluster and all. Do
Hmm,
you have a complete architectural with the flow like a hierarchy? The earlier we talked about a database, then we came to schema. Now we
hmm,
go back to the bigger picture of warehouse.
hmm.
Before you go, we all know, right? In the database world, we call it as a table. That's what we are going to
Correct,
care. We don't care
correct,
about where it stores, how it is architecture. But
correct.
theoretically, if you could give me the hierarchy, we will get an idea. Of tomorrow, if I'm going to write any certification, that will be helpful.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm making sense, Shabari. So for
Uh-huh.
that only, the next coming sessions will be I'm going to give the complete high objects. That means
Okay.
total how many Snowflake objects are available, what are the top level objects, and what are the bottom level and then chain level objects are available. Okay. So
But
there you'll
we
get the
care
complete
only
picture,
table,
Shabari.
right? Even though Snowflake, we care about the table. Correct?
Exactly. Yeah, we used to take care of only different types of tables are available in Snowflake. Normal table, permanent table, as well as the transient tables as well. Even for the database also, we have the transient database, normal database, as well as the if you create normally, it's a permanent database only.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
a regular
So
regular database, not like
regular,
a denormalized data like warehouse, fact table,
ex
dimension table. We are not going to care, right? In Snowflake.
exactly,
Okay,
exactly. We don't need to take care of it.
okay. So it's
Yeah.
like a bigger Oracle is RDBMS. It's on somewhere in a machine or server, but this data warehouse, it's like a bigger version of Oracle. Maybe can we consider like that? Or?
Yes, yes, absolutely. But it's having the lots of advantages when it comes to
Yeah,
the
yeah, of
Snowflake, right?
course. Advantage you
Yeah,
have the whatever that time travel and all the advantage. I understand, but
correct.
generally, if you are talking about, uh, it's not a warehouse concept. It's more on RDBMS concept. Snowflake.
Exactly, because we
Okay,
used to deal with the databases only, tables only, views only, and
okay.
moreover here we can able to handle the streaming data as well. That's
Streaming.
one
Yeah,
of the
that is
advantage.
right. These are all
Yes,
advantage. Next version, next
advantages.
generation. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay, and the next question what I had was when you talk about the virtual warehouse, right? So
Hmm.
if we deal with the millions, millions of data on daily basis, if it is a
Okay.
million, 1 month it will go for a trillion and petabyte level data, right? So in
Correct,
Oracle or any other regular RDBMS, that performance will slow, OLTP.
correct,
But if you
correct.
put it in Snowflake, are they going to reside in multiple virtual warehouse, or is it it should be in the one warehouse?
You mean the data processing data, right? Data.
Then the data will be split into multiple warehouse, or because it's a
No, no.
trillion of data, right? Trillion
Yes.
or petabyte data. One
Yeah.
month, if I wanted to query for a 1 year of data, that is huge.
Mm,
Since the daily basis, it is going to load as a millions of data, correct? Daily cycle.
correct,
Okay, so if
correct.
we accumulate 1 month itself, it is huge. If I go for a 12 month, it's a super huge. So are they going to store in one place, or it should be discarded into multiple warehouse?
So good question, Shabari. So as I
Okay,
mentioned, right? So storage as well as the processing both are different. It's not like a single one in Snowflake because
correct.
whatever the data we are storing, that will be stored internally any one of the cloud platform. It can be AWS, GCP, or Azure. Okay, so
Correct.
the as we already noted how the data will be stored into the S3 or GCP buckets or Azure, whatever the cloud service provider we having it. So the data will be stored over there only. But when it comes to the processing, so we used to just mention the type of the size of the warehouse we're going to use to perform the operations on top of the data. If you go ahead and use the low power warehouses, right, it will take lot of time to process because it's having only small size. If you assign the more number of, if you assign the more size of the cluster, right, if you assign the more size of the warehouse, then it will process the data more, I mean efficiently as well as the within less time as well. So what I mean to say here, Shabari, both
Uh-huh.
data as well as the processing, both are independent.
Okay,
Both are
so
independent.
correct. So if can I say like this, maybe in your computer or in your local system, you have a C drive, E drive, K drive, a lot of drives, right? I'm not talking about
Hmm.
network. I'm talking only hard
Okay.
disk. So if I wanted to
Local hard
search,
disk.
my resume, instead
Hmm.
searching C drive, I wanted to search all three drive. I had to put it in
Hmm.
my computer, entire computer, in order to search the particular data. We don't know where it resides, right?
Correct.
So that example will meet here, our local computer
Ah,
versus this one.
yes. Let me put it this way. So now you're searching for the particular file, right? Imagine the
Mhm.
case your system is supporting only 2 GB of RAM. Okay. Then you're
Uh,
searching for that particular file. How much time it will take?
it will take a
So
lot of time because 2 GB.
lot of time. 2 GB. What if I assign it to the 4 GB of RAM?
It may come faster.
What if I'm having system is having the 32 GB of RAM, 32 GB, and it's high-end system configuration of i7 and I latest processor. Then
It will be faster, but I have to search in multiple drive. I have to
yeah,
combine.
multiple
Uh,
drives only. So that
uh,
means so here we're differentiating at the storage is storing into a local hard disk as a part of drives, and when it comes to the searching part, so it's based on the your system computation power.
correct.
Yeah, that's how the Snowflake warehouses will work. So I agree your question. So that's what the Snowflake also will do internally.
Okay.
Okay, if you have in the more system configuration, right, the way of processing, or let me put in this way, one more way. If you're writing the data from one folder to another folder or one drive to another drive, which is having the 100 GB of data file something, if you're having this very old processing or 2 GB or 4 GB of RAM, obviously it will take for copying the whole data, it will take 5 minutes to 10 minutes. Okay,
Okay.
what if you have in the high-end configuration, right? Like a 32 GB of RAM, i9 processor with very latest generation, right? 12th generation or 10th generation. In that
Okay.
case, hardly it will take 1 or 2 minutes only.
Correct. So here RAM in the diagram you mentioned RAM. So what you are
Hmm.
referring RAM here? Virtual
RAM,
warehouse?
yes, RAM is nothing but virtual warehouses only.
Okay,
So
okay,
here,
got it.
yeah. So
Yeah,
yeah, once we comes to the this various
got it.
concept, right? We'll get.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll give
Now
you
I
more.
understand.
more
Now I can
yeah,
able to relate, Surya Garu. Yeah, got it.
yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. So let me explain one more this way, Shabari. So this internally, this warehouse is nothing but RAM only.
Oh,
Making
okay,
sure that this
okay.
is RAM only.
Hmm,
Okay. So we'll be
got it.
having. I can show you once we comes to the warehouses, you'll get the complete picture around of it. Why we need to use the most of the cases, medium or large is sufficient. Most of the
Okay,
cases.
got it.
Okay. Yeah, once we comes to that, I'll explain very in detail, Vishabri, for in that
Yeah,
case. Okay,
sure.
you'll get more
Thank
understanding. Yeah. Yes. So next we'll be having the cloud service, so which is very very important. Okay, and most of the cases, right, this cloud service will be taken care by the our admin team. Okay, but in our project, right, so we used to take care of the this cloud services as well in terms of the infrastructure manager as well as the authentication and access control. We used to take care for the client because we are the persons who knows the Snowflake end to end in terms of the because client was only into the Microsoft SQL Server only. They never been into Snowflake. So we are the responsible for them to migrate the data as well as the infrastructure manager as well as authentication access control as well. So for this entire cloud services, right, we have the one internal tool to handle it. So let me ask you in this way: have you ever been used ServiceNow tool? Any one of you?
Yeah, I use Snow tool. Yeah, for ticketing
Uh,
system.
Yeah, ticketing system, right? So for example, you recently assigned to the project, how they're gonna assign you to the all the access to the servers? Shabri, any idea how
No,
to
all
follow
the
that
access to the
process?
server in the sense we will submit the request, manager will approve, right? What is your question, Surya?
Exactly. So that's what I'm expecting from you, Shabri. So where we used to
Okay,
submit the request from the service now only, and the
okay.
manager will get to know that. So these are the requests are requested by the Shabri, and these all
Mhm.
involves the overall flow, and manager will take the final decision on top of that, right? So that's
Yes.
what about the existing process. When it comes to the Snowflake, where we can do the similar integration as well, Shabri. For
Okay.
example, in the client level, there are 100 users are there. So we cannot go ahead and create the number of users and number of warehouses and number of groups as well, where we cannot go ahead and create the manual. Okay, this particular role belongs to this set of number of users only. Okay, and this person has to be get the only read and write access only. This person has to be get only write access only read permission. These kind of options, these kind of permissions where we can able to configure using the separate component. So I can tell you this automation tool at end of our Snowflake sessions. Okay, so that means we can able to integrate our Snowflake account with ServiceNow account as well. ServiceNow. That means people they can submit the request to the ServiceNow so that manager will get or notified that this particular user requested this particular so on so read and write permissions. Okay, then he can take the final decision. Okay, the Shabri has to be get the read and write or only read only so that he can approve it so that only the from that where point only where you can able to get the this particular warehouse access as well, this particular databases access also you can able to see, otherwise you cannot. Very simple. Making sense, Shabari, everyone? That will be completely kind of access management, access control. Okay, that will be taken care by the admins only. But I'm saying the overall process, if required, we can also able to handle that. Sometimes we're supposed to be handled as well. Making sense to everyone?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's understand the cloud services which are part of this Snowflake architecture, right? So we'll be having the this mainly right the services, right, so which coordinates the completely what kind of operation you're performing it. Okay, so it will in order to process a certain user request. Okay, so what type of login we supposed to be used, multi-factor authentication, or where we supposed to be enter the mail ID and password, or only by using the Azure Microsoft account also is sufficient. So those kind of authentication process, right, we can able to configure everything. Everything we can able to configure within the this cloud services. Okay, so this that part will be authentication and as well as the access control. And right, we'll be having the connect into Snowflake as well. So as I mentioned, right, we'll be having multiple ways to connect to the Snowflake. So one is a web-based UI, so that's what we are doing now. Okay, so that's what we are doing now. And we have the another way to do connected to the Snowflake account, that's by using the SnowSQL. So for that, we supposed to be download the SnowSQL, and we used to configure required things over there. Then we have another ways to connect, that's using the JDBC and ODBC drivers. So for example, the Tableau connection, and we used to have the Alteryx. These are reporting tools. Using the JDBC, ODBC connections, we can able to configure, and from the tools, right, Tableau, Alteryx, so they can able to access the Snowflake database information as well. Okay, and we'll be having the Python Spark as well, and we can able to connect it through using the third-party connectors like Fivetran, Matillion, Informatica. Okay, and a few more tools as well. So those all are third-party tools, but most of the times that we used to go with only these two, and sometimes we used to go with the native connections as well, like from Python or Spark also. We have to develop the application based on the requirement. So that's how the connecting to the Snowflake will work. And when it comes to the cloud platforms, right? So as I mentioned, so as of now, the Snowflake supports these three clouds for hosting the entire Snowflake account. So if you guys remember, while creating the Snowflake account, we have selected the which account you want to host from, I mean, AWS or GCP or Azure for hosting your Snowflake entire uh, platform. Okay, so it's as I mentioned, it's a completely self-managed service, right? So which is running on the completely on the cloud only. Okay, and pricing would be it differs from the account to account. Okay, I mean the vendor to vendor. Okay, and data loading activities. As of now, one more thing I have to mention, GCP is not supporting as like AWS and Azure. So that's the reason most of the clients are selecting AWS or Azure for their data loading activities. For the data loading activities. Okay, yeah. And these things we'll discuss very in detail way when it comes to the data loading section. So data loading, as we know, so we can store the data into S3 cloud storage as well as the Azure blob storage, and internal storage we are not sure about that. So that we'll discuss when we once we comes to the Snowflake data loading activities. Okay, and we'll be having the different cloud regions as well. So it refers to, I mean, where it will differs from the uh, cloud platform to platform. So if you see all of this from these are AWS, GCP, and Azure. Okay, so one more thing, so don't spend too much time on these cloud regions, and we're not going to get any questions on the or Snowflake exam on the about the cloud regions. We'll get question on the cloud platforms. So what kind of platforms the Snowflake will support? Okay, any doubts here? Any doubts?
Yeah, very good.
Okay. Yeah, let's understand the additions. So I think I already explained you the web one while creating the Snowflake account. So now we can see the what are the different types of Snowflake editions. Okay, how can we select when it comes to the cloud? How can we suggest them? So which one is the better? Either it's a standard, enterprise, or the critical one. Okay, so based on that, so we have to take some couple of inputs here. Okay, so multiple options. So it's purely from the organization or client level specific requirements only. Okay, so then only we can able to select the which one is the better one. Okay, so we'll be having the standard edition, which is a very basic one. Okay, which is offering the very basic level operations. Okay, and we won't get the most of the operations, but not the addition operations like when we want to deal with a large amount of data sets like, and the standard edition won't support. Okay, and we'll be having the business critical edition as well. So when we're dealing with the sensitive data information, right, and we have the PHI data. PH data means personal health indicator records. Okay, so when we're dealing with insurance data or credit cards information data, right? So in that case, so the client will go for the only business critical edition. Okay, so where there's a business critical edition, right? So each will, I mean, where it used to comply with the HIPAA as well as the HIT trust CSF, and will be have a few more ones. I think they, I'm not sure they mentioned or not. With some productions as well. Let me see that. Yes, this is the one. PCI DSS as well. Okay, which is supports the only for business critical or enterprise. So because when we deals with the organization data, right? So which is a crucial, or when you're dealing with the health records or insurance details or any credit card or financial data. So most of the times we used to go with the business critical edition only. Okay, and adding to that standard and enterprise level will be having the additional advantage like a failover mechanism, so fail back. Okay, and these are some extra advantage when we go with the business critical edition. Okay, and they where they used to mention another version of the Snowflake as a, which is a completely virtual private cloud. That means so they're not going to use any third-party storage systems like Azure, AWS, or GCP, where it's a on-premise self-hosted Snowflake cluster. That means where they're going to store the or create their own storage mechanism to store the data, and on top of that they will configure the this virtual private Snowflake. For example, highly sensitive data, government related data, okay, military data. Okay, so in those such a highly sensitive data, so where they will create the virtual private Snowflake. Any doubts here? And moreover, so usually for connecting to these different types of standard edition, enterprise edition, business critical edition, we used to have the one official link to connect to that, like in this format. So this is a, if you copy this one, copy account URL. So, and this is this one as well. So this is account identifier. Basically, we used to call it as a account identifier to make it a differentiator to through the market kind of. If I click on that, so this is a my account URL ID till this section. What are you seeing, right? This is a completely account URL. So for these three, we have to connect the same way. Standard edition, enterprise edition, as well as the business critical edition as well. But when we comes to the virtual private Snowflake, right? Yes, it has their own authorized way to connect, not like using the account identifier. I think they already mentioned here. Yes, see here. So if we instead choose the this format, account locator as identifier. So this particular VPS having the different format than the other editions. Okay, but don't spend too much time on the different ways to connect it to the VPS account. It's not required. So where they're going to ask you the question like, so what's a way to connect it to the, because Snowpro core is a very basic one. They're going to ask you only the uh, how to connect it to the your Snowflake version, a Snowflake account using the account provider, that we can call it as the account identifier. That is nothing but while you created the account, you got this particular URL. Okay, this particular one we can call it as a account identifier. That's how usually we used to connect, and we'll be having the release management, how they used to connect. Okay, everything will be having. Okay, and so when it comes to the security governance data production, have you ever see this kind of authentication SSO, single sign-on in real time, Shabari, everyone?
Yeah, that's everywhere. We have SSO, right? You use the
Yes.
UI and database, everything Linux and everything on same credential.
Correct. So that's how this Snowflake also will work. So we can able to configure the SSO as well. For example, client provided you the login to the Microsoft account, right? Shabari. So
Yeah, yeah,
within that
yeah.
same credentials only, I see now just I entered here. Here, if you see Shabari, a must and should have to enter the username and password. This is a
Correct.
very basic traditional approach to log into the Snowflake account. But Snowflake supports the SSO as well. So where we can once we configure to the Microsoft the credentials, right? Here we'll get the to this account. When I refresh this one, once I configure, once I refresh here, I will get it the Microsoft SSO
Yeah,
or Google SSO to sign on.
correct.
Then if I click on that, no need to enter the username and password again.
Again, yeah.
Yes, that's how the SSO will work. And we configure to using the Microsoft account only, Shabri. So if you guys are required, I can show you how to configure the this SSO as well. But it's not required. These things will be taken care by administrator. But if you want to know how these things will be configured internally, I can show you. If possible, if you required, so tomorrow or maybe day after tomorrow, I can show you. So please confirm, guys, right now only, so that I have to prepare I have to get the documentation around of it. Mhm. It's there in my client environment. So is it required to understand how the authentication will work through SSO? Sandeep, Shravani, Nataraj.
For
Yeah.
me, I'm okay because I saw multiple times, but it's up to others.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Nataraj, Shravani, Sandeep.
Um,
it's better
I
to
want to
explain
see
that.
once. Like, I don't know about this.
Okay, you don't have any idea about the process, right? SSO.
Yeah.
Sandeep, for you?
I know how it will work, but I don't know how to install and or to configure that.
Okay. So you want to know how these things will work, Sandeep?
Yeah.
Okay, making sense. Nataraj and Rudrappa.
Yeah, configuration I want to see.
Okay,
Yeah.
making sense then. So we'll be having the tomorrow discussion around of the SSO only. How can we configure? Because the basic authentication we already know how to provide the username and password. MFA we already know, right? MFA, multi-factor authentication, right?
Yes.
So where we used to get the mobile code authentication to the your mobile number, the secondary that 6-digit code we used to get it. That we can do. Okay, but
Yes. Yes.
this is a very important. I can show you tomorrow. I can show this is tomorrow, and we'll be having the OAuth as well. So OAuth is also the recently we're about to implement this process as well. So this is where we internal the system won't share the user ID credentials. See, OAuth is for authorizing the account access without sharing or storing the user credentials. It's a kind of intermediate layer. So where it will take the account URL and it will take the user ID and password. That's all. And it won't share it to the customer and it won't show it to the someone else. Kind of it's a medium layer. Okay, and it's available for the all the versions. Okay, but so far we implemented only the SSO authentication process. Okay, and the main reason behind this SSO implementation, right? We don't want our developers to spend too much time on the entering them many times user ID and password. Okay, and you don't need to remember user ID and password as well. Simply log in with your client provided email ID, Microsoft account. That's all. Okay. And so here they are segregating the differences between the standard, enterprise, business critical as well as the VPS. And most of the things will supported by the standard as well. And where we'll be having the extra things like column masking, okay, extended time travel. These options are not supported by the standard edition. Okay. And one more thing, people, I just want to know one more thing here. How many of you preparing for the Snowflake certification? Shabari, Sandeep, Stravani, Natraj, Rudrapa.
Yeah,
Yeah,
eventually,
after this training, we are planning to do certification.
Okay. Shabari, for you, you also preparing, right?
yes, me too. I'm planning to do.
Natraj?
Yes,
Natraj?
yes, yes, I am also.
Okay. Stravani and Rudrapa?
Yeah, me too.
Okay. So then in that case, we'll get the one or two questions on the security governance, data production, different types. Okay. So where we'll get the question related to the extended time travel up to 90 days was option not available in the standard edition. Okay. So in the question you get, so is this extended time travel option is available in the standard edition, yes or no? Okay, so
So
making sure
beyond
that
90 days, you cannot roll back. That's what you mean, right?
yes,
Beyond 90 days.
yeah, beyond 90 days we cannot. Up to 90 days it supports all the three different formats except the standard edition. Maximum
Okay.
90 days, I can say maximum 90 days.
Okay.
Maximum 90 days. Okay. And so this periodic rekeying encrypted I never used, and we have used the column level security kind of masking we have used. Okay, where we want to, for example, a customer mobile number was there, so we want to mask the data, and that means where we don't want to show the that particular data to the users. Then in that case, where we can configure the column level security, kind of masking the data, and the same kind of masking data we can apply to the row level as well. And I got the question on, I think two questions I got it. One is the row level security, uh, which is supports only for business edition. I mean the business critical edition. Okay, second version as well as the final VPS edition as well. Okay, that means enterprise edition. Okay, business critical edition as well as the virtual private. Okay, so as I mentioned, right, so this particular standard is mainly for the just to whether I can able to do the small POCs purpose, the standard edition, not for the real time, I can say.
Uh, So we use as a standard edition, but it's a 30 days, right? Trial period. Is it a standard or
Oh no,
enterprise?
we can select the any version. So I think I selected the business critical version.
Oh, okay.
Okay, see versions we can define while creating the account. We can select the any one of the editions. But thing is,
Hmm.
all of these three will be supported up to 30 days only. After 30 days, we cannot access.
Correct, correct.
So
This is
simple.
for our individual. But in the
Yeah,
real time world, they don't care, right? They will buy a license, proper license,
license version, proper
client.
license too.
Okay. So
They'll buy proper license.
pretty much all the customers uses the VPS or the high end, right? They don't go for a standard or enterprise.
Exactly. VPS is mainly for the government related, very highly sensitive data. I can say military data. Okay.
Which one?
Or
VPS?
yes, VPS.
Okay.
VPS. Yeah. So some government related military weapons related data would be there, right? So where they don't want to store the data in the public domains, public cloud service providers like AWS, GCP, or anything, right?
Okay.
So in that case, where they will create the self-hosted cloud, and on top of that, where they will configure the Snowflake account. But for the business critical, right? So I saw most of the insurance clients, banking clients will go for the business critical. So
Okay.
enterprise I saw only related to the e-commerce data. E-commerce data is not that much super critical, right? So e-commerce, some basic handling the data, they will go for the enterprise edition. But so far, what are the clients I work for? where they prefer only the business critical, not with the enterprise or standard or VPS.
Correct. So by logging in or by logging in, you can able to differentiate these four, or you have to go to the.
I think I never saw that.
Okay.
Let me say that. I think once we log in, here we're not able to see. This is a multi-factor. No, I never explore that option. So can we identify what kind of edition we are using once we log in?
Okay.
Maybe accounts. Yes, here it is.
Accounts. Okay.
Yeah, from the
Business
accounts we
critical.
can able to business critical. And what kind of cloud we are using, cloud we can able to, and from here also we can able to check the on which cloud you have hosted. So from here, if you see, we'll got the cloud. Oh, here also we can able to see edition,
Yeah.
but I never looked into this option because so we used to log in and perform the only through
Correct. Correct. Yeah, I know.
worksheets. Never been into seeing this what kind of version these things.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah, and as I mentioned, right, so if possible, just understand the what kind of services are provided by the different editions. Okay, so these things are sufficient. Okay, and no need to just remember all of those. But when it comes to the time traveling, okay, and zero copy cloning and fail safe over points, so where we'll get the couple of questions as well. That we'll discuss next upcoming sessions. Okay, and don't worry about that. And this SQL supports, right? So most of the things also will support all kind of formats. See, we don't need to worry about the, I mean, okay, these things, these materialized views, search optimization, query execution not supported in the standard edition. Materialized views, I think most of you already know, right? Materialized views are nothing but whenever the data was updated from the table level, it will, okay, it will automate the overall maintenance of the results. These things will support only the uh, business critical as well as the enterprise and VPS as well. Okay, and spend some time on these things. Okay, and later we'll be having the releases as well. Oh, we already 7:58. Okay, anyway, let's do one thing. So once we tomorrow, once I completed the SSO way to just automate the whole authentication process, right, then I'll comes to the releases as well as the future as well. Okay, I'll explain the different when to choose what. Okay, when to choose the Snowflake standard edition, when to choose the business critical or the enterprise level edition or VPS. Tomorrow I'll explain that part as well. So any doubts today? I hope everyone got some basic understanding about the Snowflake architecture where we have the three different types of layers, right? So one is storage and one is for the query processing and last one is cloud services. The cloud service are nothing but so where they used to take care of the complete authentication, optimizer, security data, or where they'll take care of the metadata manager. I can say it's completely infrastructure manager. The admins we used to take care of it.
Correct. So I know you did some certificate. You did the certification, right, Suryagar? So
Yes,
can you share those document or the link, a soft copy link? That would be
yes,
helpful.
yes, yes, absolutely. I'll share it, Sabri. You don't need to worry
Okay.
about the documentation and
No,
uh,
no, no.
uh,
Parallelly, whenever you teach us,
mm,
before
okay.
we can read before come to class, right? So that will be
Okay.
helpful. Yeah.
Okay, you mean to say the next topic, what I'm going to teach it. So you just want to prepare the topic and come to us. So I will
No,
discuss on the
even
same
though if it
topic.
is, no, we are mostly focused on the certification, right? That's where the
Okay.
value.
Hmm.
Um, so if you give me the syllabus or something that kind of documentation today or tomorrow. We can
Okay.
go through it on daily basis.
Sure, Shabri. Why not? So let's make it for tomorrow because I have another session to connect with the candidates. So
Okay.
let's make it for tomorrow. So tomorrow we'll be focusing on only the SSO authentication. Later we'll be focusing on the certification point of view. Making
Okay.
sense?
Sounds good. And the documentation, right? Whatever you are teaching,
Hmm.
tomorrow I'm going to take this topic. So, or
Okay.
today, just ping this link or the Teams chat. We can
Okay.
store it in the notepad on daily basis. I put the date and time, what you
Oh,
are
yeah.
teaching. So I'm making a note
Yeah,
in the
even
note.
I'm planning to do that, Shavari, because day to day
Yeah.
wise, right, instead of giving it the link, so I'm planning to prepare one URL, one Excel sheet as well, day wise URL and the
Okay.
concept.
Okay.
That's what I'm planning to do, but I'll share that Excel sheet with you as well. So it would be
Okay.
easy for you to track as well.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll do that, Shavari. I'll do that.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So any doubts today, Stravani, Sandeep, Natraj, Rudrapa?
No, Surya.
Okay.
You're from my side.
Yeah. So thanks, team. So tomorrow we'll connect. Okay, same time, 7 o'clock AST.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
Thank
Bye.